My name is Daniel Carter. I was 19 years old when I first set foot in Vietnam, and there's something I've never told anyone, something that still follows me even now. I heard someone call my name, right before the ambush started, and the worst part is, it wasn't an American voice. We landed near Da Nang in 1965, and there was no glory waiting for us, no heroic welcome, just the deafening roar of helicopter blades slicing through the air, the thick smell of burning fuel, and a kind of heat that didn't just sit on your skin but pressed down on you like it was alive. The first thing I noticed wasn't even the jungle, it was the soldiers who had already been there. They didn't look at us, didn't greet us, didn't even react. One guy sat on a crate trying to light a cigarette, but his hands were shaking so badly he couldn't hold the flame steady. Another just stared into nothing, like he was listening to something none of us could hear. Back then, I told myself they were just tired, but I didn't understand yet. They weren't tired, they were changed. Our squad leader, Sergeant Miller, didn't yell like the instructors back in training, but when he spoke, everyone listened. He told us that out here we weren't fighting to win, we were fighting to stay alive, and sometimes, staying alive was harder than dying. I didn't fully understand what he meant until our second day, when we were sent out on patrol. The jungle didn't feel real. It was too dense, too quiet, like it was holding its breath. The trees blocked out most of the sky, the air felt heavy in my lungs, and every step we took sounded too loud, like we were announcing ourselves to something we couldn't see. Jackson was walking in front of me, a kid from Texas who never stopped joking. He leaned back and whispered that we probably wouldn't see anything, that it was all just stories to scare us. I didn't answer him, because I was listening. At first, it was just the wind, or at least that's what I wanted to believe. But then I heard it, a voice, soft and close, saying my name. Daniel. I froze, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. I turned around and asked if anyone had called me, but Jackson just looked at me like I was losing it. We kept moving, but the feeling didn't go away, and neither did the voice. It came again, clearer this time, right behind my ear, Daniel. I spun around with my rifle raised, but there was nothing there, just trees and shadows. I tried to tell Miller that I heard something, but he shut me down immediately, didn't even turn around, just told me to stay quiet. When we stopped to rest, nobody talked. Nobody even lit a cigarette. It was just breathing and the constant hum of insects, and then I heard it again, my name, right there in the silence. That was when I stood up and said there was someone out there. The whole squad looked at me, and Miller walked over, asking what I saw. I told him I didn't see anything, I just heard it, and he stared at me for a long moment before telling me to sit down. Something about the way he looked at me made my skin crawl, like he already knew something I didn't. A few minutes later, we moved again, deeper into the jungle. No one said a word this time. Jackson stepped forward and turned back with that same grin, like he was about to make another joke, and that's when we heard it, a tiny click beneath his foot. Miller reacted instantly, shouting for everyone to get down, but it was already too late. The explosion tore through the jungle, throwing me to the ground, my ears ringing, my vision spinning. When I finally looked up, Jackson was lying there, and his legs were gone below the knee. There was so much blood, more than I had ever seen in my life. I crawled over to him, shouting his name, telling him to stay with me, but his eyes were wide, filled with something I couldn't describe. Gunfire erupted from every direction, bullets ripping through leaves and branches as we realized we had walked straight into an ambush. I dropped to the ground and started firing without thinking, reloading, firing again, over and over, because I knew if I stopped, even for a second, I wouldn't make it out. Jackson grabbed my arm, his hand weak but desperate, and he pulled me closer. I told him I was there, that he needed to stay awake, but he just looked at me and whispered something that made everything inside me go cold. He asked if I heard it too, the voice. And then, just like that, he was gone. His hand went limp, his eyes still open, staring at nothing. I didn't even have time to process it before movement in the bushes forced me to react. I fired again, dropping a figure I never even looked at properly. I just kept shooting until the gunfire finally stopped. When the silence came back, it felt worse than the noise. The smell of blood, smoke, and dirt filled the air, and all I could hear was my own breathing. We lost 2 men that day, and Jackson was one of them. That night, nobody spoke. Nobody even looked at each other. I found Miller and asked him if he had heard it, if he had heard someone call my name before the explosion. He didn't answer right away. He just stood there in silence, and then he said something I'll never forget. He told me that out here, there are things that learn how to sound like us. I thought he was messing with me. I really did. Until I heard it again. From the darkness of the jungle, my name. Daniel. I turned, expecting to see someone, anyone, but there was nothing there. And this time, I knew it wasn't human.